Slam! My axe quickly sliced through the wood and met the ground. Only a few thousand more to go, I told myself. For the past 9 years, I had been making crossbows and longbows for the Anglo-Welsh army of King Edward III of England. In 1337, war had broken out between France and England over control of France, which had caused for a much larger demand of weapons production from the peasant class, which I'm a part of. The English ruler Edward III has in mind to take all of northern France for England by force against the French ruler Philip V. 5 cannons had been made to aid him in his conquest. Eventually, all of the weapons were completed, and I was able to enjoy much needed rest. And the rest was greatly appreciated. I was roughly awakened by a messenger from the royal army. Water gushed onto my face, and I quickly woke up, choking. A good amount of men were killed in a raid by the French earlier this month, so the king has requested a number of replacements, you being one of them, he told me. But I am nothing more than a peasant, I exclaimed. I'm just trying to survive in this world. But the messenger was firm. If I didn't go, I would be convicted of treason. It's not that I didn't want to go, it's just that I didn't know if I would ever see my home again, that I would be asked to stay and guard the English territories of France. But the reality was, I had no choice. So I packed my things and boarded the ship to France the next morning. We crossed the English Channel in about half a day and landed on the coast of Normandy near King Edward's camp. He had divided his army into thirds, and his fraction was going to march south the next morning and camp near Crécy, take the city, then march even further into France and attack Philip's main army. Being an English male, I had become an exceptional archer in my youth, which meant that the army didn't have to waste time training me now. However, I could get rid of this feeling that I should take my axe with me. My father had given it to me before he had been lost at sea with some other crewmen searching for better farmland, and told me it would be useful one day. So I kept it on my back as we marched south to Crécy, not knowing how greatly this decision would benefit me in the near future. We reached the plains near Crécy and set up a fort on the highest ground, from which we would have the advantage in case we were attacked. We sharpened sticks of wood and placed them in the ground, pointing outward to prevent enemy charges, and have watchmen to watch the outskirts of the camp at night. However, in the morning, no one is prepared for what is on the horizon. We awake with horror as we find that our camp is surrounded by Philip and his force of 50,000 men, greatly outnumbering our small force of 15,000. In addition, Philip has hired Genoese archers to even out the odds against our archers. Things look very bad for the royal army and King Edward. I personally wanted to surrender to the French, give them back all of France, and go home. My king, however, would have none of it, and forced us to hold our ground. Seeing that we had chosen not to surrender, the Genoese mercenaries started bombarding our fortress with arrows. Our archers immediately responded, sending waves of arrows toward the Genoese. A group of 40 men, including myself, kept them from getting to the southern entrance of our fort. We quickly discovered that the bows of the Genoese were too weak to reach us, and came down the hill a bit and cut down 1,000 of them. Panicking at this point, the Genoese attempted to retreat, but then to our shock, the French knights charged. The French knights slaughtered all of the remaining Genoese archers, seeing their retreat as cowardly and a betrayal of their agreement. Fortunately for us, this left the knights disorganized as they charged up the hill, and became easy prey as we cut down thousands and thousands of men and horses alike. When about half of the French army had been wiped out and the remaining troops were in disarray, the king ordered me and 1,000 of his men to charge down the hill and finish them off for good. I grabbed my bow and arrow and ran down the hill, shooting and killing many soldiers. However, when I was a quarter of the way down the hill, a lone French knight charged me and knocked me over, flinging my bow and arrow out of reach. I hit the ground hard, my vision blurring as I tried to identify my attacker. I saw him charging at me with his sword, getting ready to finish me off, when I remembered my axe on my back. In the last second, I reached back and took hold of my axe and swung as hard as I could. The axe cut across the knight's shoulders and through his neck, taking his head from his body. 50 knights charged me. I slaughtered them all with my axe. They couldn't get past me, for their swords were no match for my powerful axe. All of the French soldiers were now either injured or limping towards their reinforcements to the other side of the bridge. As soon as they'd gotten over there, I realized if I cut this bridge down, then the battle would be over. I rushed to the bridge and started chomping. However, the French army saw what I was doing and charged at me with all the speed they had. I started chopping faster and faster. I couldn't let the French get over here and destroy my army. As the leader of the army lunged at me, I took the final blow at the bridge, and it cracked, taking the entire French army that didn't manage to get back to the other side down into the river with it. The English were victorious, and the day was won, thanks to me and my axe.